All right, so are you ready for this? We're going deep, deep into the Space Systems Command.
SSC.
Yeah, the SSC.
Hmm.
We've got their 2024 command plan, kind of their playbook, right?
Exactly. Their roadmap for how the U.S. stays top dog in the space race.
And it's more than just, launching stuff up there. This is about global power who's got the influence in the 21st century. Big stuff.
Oh, absolutely. You can feel the urgency right from the start of this plan. Like, they come out swinging.
How so?
They basically lay it out. We're in a race that could totally reshape the world order. No mincing words.
Wow, I mean, I know we rely on space tech every day, but
But think about it. GPS, communications, even like how the stock market works. If you control space, you control a lot down here, too.
that's a sobering thought. And the mission that SSC has is huge EE. We're talking about developing, acquiring, putting it all together, all kinds of space capabilities.
Way beyond just launching rockets, yeah. Like, look at their program executive offices,
Mhm.
the PEOs. They've got 6 of them.
And each one is focused on a different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, you've got one for space domain awareness. They're the ones making sure we know what's going on up there, tracking potential threats. Then you've got the PEO for military communications, building the next generation of secure satellite communication systems.
So they're like specialized teams within SSC.
Right, the backbone of the whole operation. But here's something that really jumped out at me, the emphasis on people.
Yeah, the workforce. I noticed that too.
It's not just about having the coolest tech, it's about the talent, the right culture.
Like they're trying to be the cool kids on the block.
Well, they want to be a magnet for the best minds out there. So they're talking about this reimagining career development planning using a hybrid workforce model.
So less stuffy government agency, more Silicon Valley startup vibe.
You got it. Recognizing that the old way of doing things might not cut it in the space race. Give people flexibility, empower them, you get more innovation.
Interesting. Makes sense. And that leads us to their, what do they call them? Guiding tenets.
Yeah, the 3 big pillars. Think of it as their playbook, their strategy for winning. First up, they want combat-ready capabilities by 2026.
Systems that can handle themselves even when things get dicey. And the second tenet, that's all about building a world-class culture. Attract and retain the best people, right?
You can't just rely on the coolness factor of space anymore,
Yeah.
right? You need to offer competitive salaries, growth opportunities, a place where people actually want to work.
And the final tenet is modernizing the command structure, making it as effective as possible. Why is that so key in this space race we keep hearing about?
Agility, my friend, agility. Things change fast in space. New tech, new threats, new players popping up all the time. SSC's got to be able to adapt, make decisions quickly, respond effectively, no bureaucracy bogging them down.
Okay, so we've got the high-level goals. But how do they actually plan to get there? I mean, the plan talks about specific actions, especially for resources and building up their workforce. What jumps out at you there?
Well, one that caught my eye was their plan to analyze and reallocate personnel based on mission priorities. It's like they're saying, okay, where are the biggest threats right now? Where do we need to focus our brain power?
Anti-satellite weapons, maybe?
Hmm.
Or developing hypersonic vehicles, that kind of thing.
Could be. It signals that they're not afraid to shift gears and put resources where they're most needed. Of course, moving people around in a huge organization like that.
It's not going to be easy.
It'll take careful planning, lots of communication, but it shows they're serious about adapting. And they're also really emphasizing this idea of a guardian culture.
More than just a slogan, right?
Yeah, it's a mindset shift, accountability, collaboration, a bias towards action.
Space warriors, basically.
Yeah.
They need people who can not only handle the tech, but also make tough calls under pressure. Think strategically.
Exactly. But it's not all about preparing for conflict. There's another really interesting aspect to this whole plan.
What's that?
They're putting a lot of emphasis on deepening connections, not just with military partners, but industry, even the public.
Really? They're even talking about specific engagement products for different stakeholders.
Mm.
Why so much effort on communication?
Because in the space game these days, you can't go it alone. They need to build partnerships with commercial companies, work with other countries, and they need the public to understand what they're doing, why it matters.
So it's a multi-pronged approach. Building better tech, fostering those relationships, creating a workforce that's ready for anything.
It's a big puzzle, and SSC is right in the middle of it all, trying to figure out how to ensure U.S. leadership in space and ultimately shape the future of space exploration itself.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground already. The urgency of the space race, SSC's mission, their guiding principles, even some of their specific actions. But there's a big looming question we haven't really tackled yet.
And that is,
The challenges,
Yeah.
the threats. What's standing in their way? What are the things that could derail their plans?
well, that's where things get a little more intense, because this command plan, it keeps mentioning outpacing the threat.
Outpacing the threat. Okay, let's talk about that. What are the biggest challenges to U.S. dominance in space right now? What are the things keeping SSC up at night?
We're not just talking about other countries launching more satellites. It's about what those satellites can do, the possibility of conflict in orbit. We're going to need a smarter, more strategic approach to space security. I mean, they don't come right out and name names, but you can read between the lines.
Oh, yeah. What are they hinting at?
Anti-satellite weapons. ASATs.
Okay, ASATs. Those are a thing, huh?
Imagine, like, one of our crucial satellites just gone, taken out.
And what, like it falls out of the sky, hits somebody?
No, not quite like
Yeah.
that. But the consequences could be huge. For one, you've got debris, a whole field of it from the destroyed satellite. That stuff could smash into other things up there, like the International Space Station.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about the target itself.
Nope. It's dangerous for everybody. One country acts up, and suddenly space is a lot riskier for everybody.
A tragedy of the commons situation, like you said.
Right. But even without blowing things up, there are other ways to cause trouble.
Like what?
Electronic warfare,
Yeah.
jamming signals, messing with GPS data. You're not destroying anything, but you can still cause a lot of disruption. Chaos, even.
So how is SSC dealing with all this? Are they, like, building defenses or thinking about going on the offensive?
A little of both, actually. They're definitely talking about resilience.
Yeah.
Satellites that can dodge missiles or that can keep working even if parts get damaged.
So less like building a tank, more like a stealth fighter.
Good analogy. Multiple layers of defense, making the satellites themselves tougher and also having better early warning systems. But then there's deterrence, too. You have to show that there's a price to pay for attacking U.S. stuff in space.
But isn't that like a really fine line to walk? You don't want to make things worse, start some kind of space arms race?
Oh, it's a tricky game, no doubt. And that's where the human element is crucial. You need people who don't just get the technology, but can think strategically, understand the big picture.
So back to that guardian culture idea. Not just building satellites, but building the right kind of space force.
Exactly. People who can make good decisions in tough situations, comfortable with uncertainty, always thinking ahead.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the serious stuff, the threats.
Yeah.
But is there anything good happening? Any exciting developments that give you hope for space exploration?
Actually, yeah. One area where SSC is really pushing the envelope is commercial partnerships.
That makes sense. Private companies are doing amazing things these days. Rockets, satellites, you name it. It's like the internet boom, but for space.
Exactly. And by teaming up with these companies, SSC can tap into that innovation, that speed. Think SpaceX, Blue Origin, Planet Labs. They're all developing revolutionary stuff.
So the government gets the latest tech, and the companies get experience working on these big national security projects. Everybody wins.
Exactly. And it goes back to why SSC is so focused on building relationships with all these different stakeholders, creating an environment where everyone can work together.
So it's this whole space ecosystem they're building, with SSC at the center, coordinating everything.
Great way to put it. And communication is key. They need to be open about their goals, what they need, make sure everybody's on the same page.
So it's a balancing act, preparing for potential conflict on one hand, but also trying to foster cooperation and peaceful exploration on the other.
A delicate balance. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating. Space isn't just for governments anymore. It's this dynamic, evolving place where companies, international players, even individuals are having a bigger and bigger impact.
And SSC is right there in the thick of it, trying to keep the U.S. on top and ultimately shape the future of how we explore space.
Which brings us back to why any of this should matter to the average person.
Because space isn't some far-off thing anymore. It affects our lives every day.
GPS, weather forecasts, how we communicate globally. All of that depends on what happens in space. And as things get more complicated, the decisions SSC makes are going to impact all of us.
So if you're trying to understand the future, you have to understand space.
The space race is back on. But it's not just about bragging rights this time. It's about making sure space is a safe, secure, and sustainable place for everyone.
And SSC is leading the charge, facing some huge challenges, but also some incredible opportunities. They're building new things, forming new partnerships, and creating a workforce that can handle anything.
And that's why understanding their mission, what they're trying to do, is so important. It's not just about military stuff and politics. It's about how humanity interacts with space now and in the future.
Okay, we've talked about threats, we've talked about cool new developments, we've dug into the workforce and this whole guardian culture thing. But there's one big question still hanging out there.
What's that?
What does it even mean to win this new space race? Is it about having the most stuff up there, the biggest weapons, or is it something more than that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are we just trying to be the biggest, baddest bully in space? Or is there a bigger goal here?
Yeah, like, are we trying to build some kind of Star Wars empire?
Right.
Or is it more about working together, making space a place where everyone can benefit?
You hit the nail on the head. And honestly, looking at SSC's actions, all this talk about partnerships and transparency, it seems like they're leaning toward the cooperation side of things.
Makes sense? Because if space becomes some kind of free-for-all battleground,
Nobody wins.
Right.
All that critical stuff we rely on, it all gets put at risk. Global security takes a hit, scientific progress slows down. Not good.
not good at all. So I guess that's why it's so important to really dig into what SSC is doing.
It's not just about understanding their weapons and their strategy. It's about figuring out what space power means in this century, how it's going to affect all of us.
It's about the choices we make today, right?
Yeah.
The tech we develop, who we partner with. Those decisions are going to determine what kind of space environment we leave for our kids and grandkids.
Exactly. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this thought. We've talked about a lot of heavy stuff threats, the workforce, this guardian culture.
But it's all in service of a bigger goal.
It's about making sure space stays this amazing place of wonder, discovery, progress. A place where we can keep exploring, pushing the boundaries of what we know. Who knows, maybe someday we'll even go beyond our own planet.
That's a pretty inspiring thought, the space race. With all the drama and the challenges, it's really about something much bigger than just which country comes out on top. It's about our future as humans out
Yeah.
there in the cosmos.
A race worth winning, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So to all you listeners out there, keep looking up, stay curious, and always remember,
Space starts here.